Today we will discuss inaccessibility of knowledge. To make inferences, and especially for text comprehension, it is important that we should understand certain points. According to Kinch, in 1994, one of the studies that he published, prior knowledge is critical for making inferences and also text comprehension. It is believed that while the knowledge needed to make inference may be available in the semantic memory, but might not be equally accessible in all contexts. In another study, it is believed that less accessible knowledge is less likely to be used during comprehension or during the process of making inferences because it takes longer time to be retrieved. Information is defined being available if it is available in the semantic memory and it can be retrieved easily. Therefore, less accessible knowledge takes longer time to be retrieved, and highly accessible knowledge is more preferred and is more likely to be used in the process of making inferences and text comprehension. Now we will discuss certain points that have been generated from the results of the studies conducted to examine the inaccessibility of knowledge. Now, the one factor can be the passages which are obscurely written, and their results indicate certain points that when knowledge was not activated in the passages that were given to the participants, comprehension was severely impaired. Now, the passages which were obscurely written and when they were initially used, they initially could not bring the knowledge of the subject matter to the task of comprehension. So that showed that the knowledge which was never activated, comprehension was severely impaired. And yet, it is also possible to comprehend a passage and still not activate the relevant body of the knowledge. So, two things important. One is that if it was unable to bring the knowledge of the subject matter to the task, that led to the comprehension being severely impaired. But again, there is a possibility also that to comprehend a passage, you still not require to activate the relevant body of the knowledge. Second is anomalous suspense. Now, that is when a reader participates in a narrative world in such a fashion that the knowledge critical to sustaining suspense is not immediately accessible. So, in this situation, we see that this particular aspect refers to the information which is immediately not accessible. Subjectively, a reader experiences anomalous suspense when continuing to experience suspense in a story despite having experienced it earlier. To explore the phenomena of anomalous suspense under some laboratory conditions, Garrick conducted an experiment and required students to respond true or false to well-known facts about history and current events. For example, one statement, Charles Lindbergh was the first solo pilot to cross the Atlantic, and the other is Charles Lindbergh intended to fly airplane to Europe. Now, the passages which were given, one was biased toward the counterfactual outcome, and another group received a passage that was biased towards the real outcome. The results indicated that the group that received the counterfactual paragraph was slower in verifying the truth of the statement, such as this. Then another area was also highlighted in the study, which was about expectations of uniqueness. Now, according to Gregg, when encouraged to set aside their real-world knowledge, students seemed to do just, and we were correspondingly slower at verifying real-world statement. Now, according to this, he proposes an explanation of this puzzle that revolves around the concept of expectation of uniqueness. When we sit down to read a novel, for example, we expect to encounter new characters and new situations. Thus, rather than searching our memory for previous events of characters and situations, the author invites us to treat a work of fiction as something new, and one tends to develop expectations in this regard. Now, this is something what Greg proposes, that readers not only have expectations but also preferences, and that both responses guide their comprehension efforts. Now, if you look at this example, the director and cameraman were ready to shoot close-ups when suddenly the actress fell from the 14th story. Most readers will not only infer that the actress is likely to die, but form preferences along the lines of don't die or something like that, or something like let her die. Now, in the series of studies, Greg and his colleagues demonstrate that readers were slower to read out outcomes which were inconsistent not only with their expectations but also with their preferences. Given the inconsistency between two retrieval attempts, there must be knowledge that is stored but is not retrieved at a particular moment, while another researchers believe that conceptualized the availability versus accessibility distinction in an event memory paradigm. This distinction also holds for knowledge.